welcome to the AveriSource Platform 2.0 demonstration series. Today we'll talk about Transform. Transform is our product to enable transformation of legacy applications. We can take COBOL or RPG and translate them into Java or C#. The AveriSource Transform summary page shows suggested actions and summary metrics on the items to be transformed or that have been transformed. When we look at the entities view, shows an entity relationship diagram showing the one-to-many or one-to-one references between files, showing the breakdown of the files with field names and field types. And you also see there's an asterisk on some of these field types. On the left, what you see is a text representation of this entity definition. This is called the AveriSource descriptor language, and it tells about the field types. And if you notice in the orange, some fields say required. Those are the fields that have asterisks in the entity relationship diagram. This means that this field is referenced in a business rule and is required. We need to know that so that when we generate microservices for data entities, the testing programs, the auto-generated UX, the screens to interact with these microservices, we need to ensure that we know the max length for entry and that certain fields must be entered. In the modeling view, if you've seen the Discover video, you remember our process identification. This is a mapping of entry points or programs to business functions. So this process description is usable in different types of analysis. This helps if you have separate groups working on different business function applications. We automatically index these items, and in the Discover process identification, you can download a spreadsheet, update these descriptions, and upload them so they can be used throughout. You notice the custom update to JCL. This is an item that we've used in other videos, and I've generated a model for that entry point. What you see here is basically the same thing. This is an entity relationship diagram also of the same file, this credit loans account file. This is the same that we saw in the entities, but where the entities is a project-wide list of entity definitions for all of the files or tables within the project that you provided. This just represents those files for the entry point or program that you're referencing in this modeling view. What you see on the left is, again, the AveriSource descriptor language, but this is for that entity and not only describes the entity description, the field layouts, but there are three sections to this. The configuration section, which defines each microservice, the type of microservice, what data it will be using, how it will be built, what UX will be used, if there are testing tools involved. These are all configurable components that you select in the build. This information will be parsed and processed through the transform forward engineering process. There's a microservice for each of these data entities, and there will be a test program created for each of these microservices. After the configuration section is the entity section, which we've already discussed. And then there is the business logic section, which includes the legacy code that's being transformed, the identification of what language we're transforming to, as well as the converted code that will be processed for generation. All this is ADL, and this is also text that can be updated or deleted. So previously, we discussed in the Analyze video where I can identify cloned code and determine if I'm going to consolidate by eliminating code. So I could actually delete a routine and not generate this microservice, or delete the others and only generate this microservice. From a screens perspective, we render the representation of the green screens from the legacy systems. The label names, where the fields are, how long those fields are. This helps in the redesign for the UX team and working with the client. And you can download the HTML renderings and the Angular projects for the UX team to get started. One key factor and differentiator for AveriSource is we generate structured, object-oriented, maintainable Java or C#. We generate the Spring framework, and we generate the Angular projects with no proprietary runtimes, platform, or vendor lock-in. Once these entities have been generated, there will be a folder for each microservice that's been generated. And within these folders, there are many other folders and files, such as configuration files for things like SonarQube to test the quality of the code. We also generate microservices and YAML files for the application components. We can look at these YAML files and identify where we must determine the registry, because we provide a free open source registry to test your microservices. When you're testing your components that you generated, if you're using a database, you have to define that data string with a data connection string. And then we can give a command, a faker command, to generate fake data. We can auto-populate this fake data. This is strictly random text data, but in the format of the fields needed. I'll show you that. This is SQL Server Management Studio. I'm using SQL Server Express, and I've created the database and the tables for the credit loan account file. If I view that, you can see I've already populated the fake data into this framework, into the schema, and I can go and test those in the registry that we've provided. The registry provides access, and we've generated these automated UI screens for each of the data microservices that were created. If I pick a smaller one for visibility, I can edit this data in it. And this is the UX that was generated automatically. So I've done no extra UX work. So I could go into update data, and it tells me from prior knowledge from the analyze module and the discover modules what the required field width is. So I can't go on with the size too long. If I want to put new data into this file, you can see here where if I tab past this field, it says it's required. This is one of those fields that was referenced in the business rule, so cannot be omitted. Beyond the entities, we create the APIs. There are APIs for the main micro, gateway microservices, the logic the microservices, and the data microservices, such as credit loan account file. And I've done no UX work, but now I have these available. I have populated the fake test data, and I'll use this get credit loan account files API with an ID so that I can request data. I'll key an index number in here, hit execute, and you see down here, this data has come from that fake data that was populated into the schema. So transform your legacy applications to Java or C# and deploy them wherever you like, even back to the legacy platform. We also provide reference architectures for all cloud service providers. So to transform your application, go to AveriSource.com and start with Scan today, or contact us at hello@AveriSource.com.